Can you hear me? Do I have my audio right? There it goes. All right. Welcome. Let's get Instagram cranking. We're going to go live. Okay. All right. How's everybody doing today? God, I had to legit think about what day it was. For a second, I thought it was Monday. It's Tuesday. How is everybody doing today? How's the new year? Are we off to a good start? Are things going well? Do we have some challenges? A little bit of both? How's everybody feeling? And can you guys hear me okay? Okay, let's see what is going on. Straight to it. Hope you're safe from the fires. The fires are, I know they're gnarly right now. We have friends in the Palisades that some of them couldn't get out, but are now out. Some of them took off this morning. Scary. The fires out here are no joke. Any thoughts on Airbnb arbitrage? Airbnb arbitrage or Airbnb in general, you just got to be really comfortable with the risk, and you need to know about it before you go in. I would say the greatest risk right now on Airbnb is probably the political risk. You're seeing it basically shot down in a lot of cities. Secondarily, you are seeing a drop in demand on Airbnbs. So just be careful when you're doing a new deal. Make sure you're considering that. Touch my camera through the fence. We all hate taxes. Am I right? Actually, I don't know if you're right. Noel boy, I don't like taxes, but every time I talk about tax incentive and trying to bring taxes down, there is a portion of people that are against that idea and are totally good with paying taxes, like totally comfortable and paying where they are. And you actually see people say they'd pay more. I personally don't understand that, but I would say no, not all of us hate taxes. There are some people that are good with it. Do you play golf? You look like a golf player. I play golf. I'm obsessed with golf. Golf became my new thing after skateboarding. It's one of the most obsessive things I've ever done. I think because golf is such a mind, you're battling your mind, which I do like. And then the second thing is golf is a game that you can pair with business. And the business I'm in, they go hand in hand. So that part allows me to golf probably more than I would based on how busy I am. Can you still switch front crook a handrail? To tell you the truth, doing a switch front crook down a handrail, even when I was pro, was a heavy one. I could not do it down a rail anymore. How do you test business ideas before executing? Oliver Pitch, really good question. So what I would recommend doing is, well, last time I started, prior to my business now, when we started the craft brewery, we were entering a space that we didn't really have a lot of knowledge in. How we tested it is we scheduled meetings with other breweries and asked them a bunch of questions. And after you talk to enough people, you start seeing some similarities. You definitely will have a gauge on like where pricing's at. And, you know, I would say this. When you're doing research on a business, you don't want to just take the example of the outlier. Like if you're trying to start a athlete, what's the athletic leisure type of brand? Like Viore. Like don't use Viore as the example of what your revenue and market cap's going to be for a athletic brand. Like you want to take more realistic kind of examples of what it's going to be. I've always just tried to call people that are doing the thing I'm trying to do and get their opinion. What are your challenges? What's the profit margin? You know, what's been your growth? And I try to gauge it that way. But I don't know. I think sometimes what you're just trying to figure out is there demand for it, or is the industry saturated? It's not that hard to figure out if an industry is saturated. At that point, it's just about figuring out what you don't know and then honestly going for it. A lot of stuff when you start a new business, you prepare as much as you can, but once you start it, there's always new things that happen that you weren't planning on. They weren't planned on happening, and you just kind of have to start solving problems. So at some point, you're just going to have to go for it. Do you still skateboard? I don't skateboard that much. I probably step on a skateboard once a quarter. So that's like 4 times a year. Not good. Skater with a law degree here. How to get into politics? Good question. I got in by running for city council. That's probably not what most people do. I would say most people get in by trying to sit on committees in their local community. Maybe they'll try to, get appointed as a traffic commissioner or planning commissioner. And then I think eventually somebody will run for city council. And then after city council, maybe you're going to look at like a county, elected position or greater. For me, I just went for it. I was like, I think I would be good at being on city council. I think it would be beneficial to my city. How do I run a campaign? And then I just ran a campaign. You're going to learn more from doing that than anything. So I would say just get involved locally before you start running for some of the bigger stuff. I think too many people try to go for like Congress or assembly, and I would say start locally. You're going to actually learn a lot of things prior to running a campaign. All right. Love the page, best book to read on scaling a business. Okay, best book to read for scaling a business. Let's see if I have it here. Okay, here we go. Here's your 2 books. Ready? Okay, this is what I'm going to give you for scaling a business. Here's the 2 best books for scaling a business right now. Number 1, Traction. This is an incredible one. It's not going to be your like pie in the sky dreamer type of book. This is a management style book that is going to give you things to actually implement into your business. This book is phenomenal. It's all about the right kind of leadership and management structure for you to actually gain traction and track accountability. Phenomenal. Second book for you to read, 10x is easier than 2x. This one's a phenomenal one that they pair very well together. So as far as scaling business, if you guys want to scale a business, scale a company, I'd recommend reading these 2 books. All right, what is good debt? Good debt is debt that you put on an asset that is paying you cash flow. It doesn't have to be a physical asset, but for me, let me think if it's the only thing I ever use debt on. I would use debt on 2 things for me personally. I would use debt to buy physical assets like real estate, where that asset is going to pay your interest, where it's going to potentially increase your return, where it's going to give you some tax help. Putting debt on real estate, that's the most clear example of good debt. The second one, and I was just talking to my business partner about this, so it's fresh in my head. A lot of times when you're working for a company and you have the opportunity to buy in, buy shares of the company, become a partner in the company, a lot of people don't necessarily have the cash to buy all of the shares that they have the potential of earning. So a lot of people will borrow from the company, and then the shares that they have and the dividend that comes in to pay their shares, they pay to pay that debt down until they ultimately own the shares free and clear. That to me would be another good example of debt. As far as using debt to like buy options or buy stock, like levering stocks, I don't want anything to do with that. I guess technically you could say that's a use of good debt. I don't like it. Maybe a case for good debt would be a HELOC. Maybe it's more like a line of credit, but borrowing money against the equity you have in your house. Or when you start getting really wealthy, you start playing a game where you start borrowing against your assets. That's a good example of, that's another example of good debt. All right, Cruz, David, you met my mom. She said, you the GOAT in business. I remember we would watch you skate. I appreciate you. Please tell your mom I said thank you for that compliment. These past few months, I have felt like I don't want to work, feeling lazy. What are some steps to overcome this, Brandon? That is such a good question. Before I answer it, do you guys mind putting in the comment section, anybody out there struggling with motivation, anybody feeling lazy, just feel themselves not having the same drive they had. I would love to get your guys' opinion on if you're struggling with this. For me, I've had moments where like I'm just lazy, don't want to do anything. They've always been very, very short-lived for me personally. Like there's some days I'm in the office and like I just don't have it. Like I am just like don't feel like doing anything. You're always going to have those days. I would say if you're in a slump like for months where you just don't feel like working, you don't feel like grinding, I would say for me, there's been probably two reasons that have created the lack of motivation. Number one, it's typically purpose driven for me. If there's not a greater reason to why I'm showing up for work, that's typically when I find myself running the risk of lack of motivation, right? So for example, for me, if I was just going to business, if I was just coming to work to make money, I would inevitably get to a point where I'm just burnt out. Like, don't really have the drive today or this month. That isn't enough for me. But because I have this idea of what I'm trying to create, and for me to go like more niche down on like my actual business, I really want to create a business that gives every single person the ability to own real estate in their portfolio, like good quality real estate. I want everyone to have access to that. And I'm building my whole company around that idea. And as of right now, I am very far from that mission, right? Like right now, you have to be an accredited investor to invest with me. The minimum investment is quite large. And so that alone, puts us in a position where I'm not fulfilling the purpose of why we started this company. And so, why I am excited to show up to work is because I'm trying to accomplish that goal and I have a long way to go. And so, that helps me get past the grind work of like, I've got to do something I don't want to do because I have a bigger goal that is really exciting to me. That helps keep my motivation up. So I would say either maybe it's time to look into a new career. Maybe it's time to almost like create a new desire for showing up, right? Maybe that would look like maybe a leadership. Like maybe you show up to work to just very clearly be an example to others and to try to like, I don't know, help those in need. I'm just kind of, like thinking randomly, but I would really focus on a purpose. The purpose is usually what gets me through those lack of motivation. I want to see if anybody posted this in the chat to see if they've ever struggled with anything like this. Let's see. I'm not seeing anything. So maybe not a lot of people have struggled with it. Okay, crap. I guess not a lot of people are struggling with that one. For me, that's what I've always needed. So I would say look into what's driving you, kind of what your purpose is, which is why you're here on this planet, and then try to make sure that your job is fulfilling that. What's up, Mikey? What's the most effective way you are sourcing development projects, and what are you doing to actively capital stack or effectively capital stack? Really good question. So how our business works, we are constantly looking for new projects to buy and invest in. But in that, we are specific with what we're trying to accomplish, right? So maybe on our storage side of the business, the buy box would be we're looking for big box retail that has gone vacant and is distressed. Typically, we need 100 to 150,000 square feet. We need enough room to double stack our storage units. And maybe the parameters are we want two major employers that are not in the same sector. We want population growth. We want, a certain number of, or the lack of a certain amount of storage units in like a 1, 3 to 5 mile radius. historically, or maybe over the last 5 years, we want to see rents increasing. So we would create our buy box for brokers to go out and find us deals. We do the same thing with our multifamily, right? We're looking in these markets. We're looking for, this size development product. And then that's either going to come to us through a broker or a developer that we have used in the past. So sometimes just developers are a source of projects for us. And then as far as capital goes, or the capital stack, our company is the equity. The equity is done through bringing on investors into the project. And then as far as the construction loans, or even as we roll into our permanent financing, we have a couple lenders that we work with. And then we have a couple brokers that will help us source debt when that time comes. Our last loan, actually, we just closed on a loan last week. Our newest loan we just closed on is a $26 million loan for a new project that we're building actually close to here in Ventura. What are your thoughts on setting big goals that you haven't hit in your prior years? Come somewhat close, but short. Is it better to continue taking a 10x approach or scale back to goals? Really good question. Okay, so goal setting. I am really big on goal setting. That drives me, and I always need something to chase. I've learned this about myself. I love the process of trying to get there. I like that actually more than hitting the goal. And so goal setting is big for me. As far as should you create a goal that you can never achieve, I would say yes and no. So for anyone that hasn't read Grant's book, 10X, it was actually a concept that it has been around for a long time, but the idea is this. Whatever you set your goals at, your subconscious is kind of trained to only set goals based on what you can actually accomplish. And what you think you can accomplish is typically much lower than what's actually possible. So what the book and the concept 10X is all about, for those that don't know, you set your goal at, let's say, $100,000. I want to make $100,000 this year. That's my goal. What the 10X concept would say is 10X that and make your goal $1 million for the year. And the reason why they would do that is twofold. One, when you set goals, your brain automatically is programmed to solve problems and get to your destination. And so if you set the destination, you're naturally going to figure out how to get there. The second part of that is, even if you don't hit your goal of, let's say, $1 million, typically what you end up seeing is you hitting somewhere between 300,000, 400,000, 800,000, which is significantly higher than what your original goal set was. So it's going to drive a much higher productivity and ultimately return out of what you're chasing. The other part to it, though, and this is where you have to be a little bit more realistic with who you are as a person. For somebody who's never hitting their goals, you're never getting that dopamine rush or that sense of fulfillment by accomplishing. Excuse me. And so for some people, you might have to just push the boundaries on what you think your original goal is, but set it so you can actually accomplish it. That's going to be maybe more personally based. For me, actually, I'm always falling short of my goals. Even looking at what our goal was last year for how many projects we wanted to close on, how much capital we wanted to raise, and what our AUM was going to be, we landed short. We've landed short since forever. But if you look at how much more capital we've raised each year, it's significantly more. So I'm really good with the 10X kind of philosophy, and I'm okay if we don't hit our goals. I just want to see constant improvement, but that will be a personal deal. You're going to have to find that out for yourself. Burger driver, boring. My man, all you have to do is exit out. No one is forced to be here. Great book on goals is Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod. I have not read that. I haven't even heard of that. Thank you for the recommendation. Yo, should drop a Mikey Taylor 2.0 part. I know you can still crook a handrail. apart from me would not be pretty. It really wouldn't. The tricks would be so basic. I don't know if it would look good. You really do look like Midler's dad. I actually hang out with Midler's dad all the time. We're like close friends. We golf frequently. I actually don't think I look a lot like Larry, but I think I do look like either Midler's sibling or, yeah, I guess I could pull off Midler's dad. As far as the not feeling like doing anything, we all get that. But for me, I have to be there for my girlfriend and her kids. So ideal. Tyler, that's actually a good one. I'm glad you brought that up because that's a good point. One phenomenal way to create motivation is increase responsibilities. Like if you have responsibilities and you can't drop the ball, motivation isn't even an issue. You do what you have to do to get it done. And so that's a phenomenal example. And dude, great work providing, man. I really like that. All right. Is he streaming any other than YT and IG? What chat is he reading? Ricky, I'm sorry, my man. I am streaming in other platforms. Right now it's YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram. But it takes me so long to get through the comments because they come in so fast that I was missing them. What are your thoughts? Okay, I already got that one. What I am going to do, as you said that, I'm going to pick over to YouTube and let's see what I got going on over here. When you coming back to compete in Street League, I don't think that's ever going to happen because I wouldn't even have a chance to compete. The only thing I would do with Street League is one, if they ever wanted me to come judge one contest, I would totally do that. Or I would just go as like a spectator and just watch. Mikey, please buy Lakai. To tell you the truth, Lakai, I have always loved the brand Lakai. But as far as me investing in things, I don't see myself investing in a shoe company. They're just too hard. We were talking about this earlier. Shoe companies are saturated. It's very difficult to create something that's unique, and the margins are decent. It's just the minimums that you have to buy to actually pull it off are high. So barrier to entry is high on something like Lakai though. For like the truth of it is, you'd have to get out of the skate industry to be able to pull it. Like the reality for skateboarding is when you build something just for skateboarding, especially on shoes, you just can't compete anymore, which is so sad. I mean, everybody's watching what happened to Etnies, S, and Emerica. They're letting everyone go. I'm not sure those brands are even going to be skateboarding in the next 3 years. And a major reason, it's like everything that we do, there's pros and cons, right? One of the pros to all the big players coming in, your Nikes, your Adidas, your cons, is it gave more pros the opportunity to make money. That was one of the pros, right? One of the cons is you started watching the smaller core skate brands not be able to compete with these big brands. And now you're watching all the core skate companies go away. And it sucks. I actually don't like anything about that. Like, you know, my favorite brands growing up were always the core brands. My favorite brand was S as far as shoes go. Absolutely loved them. I loved Lakai. I liked Circa when Circa started. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But all that to say, for Lakai, I'm not sure it'd be a good investment. I think the only investment you would have in that is somebody that's so passionate about skateboarding that they're willing to lose money year over year just to have it be a brand in the industry. Financial advice for beginners in terms of budgeting and investing. Okay, so budgeting real quick, I would say the most basic example of a budget is the 50-30-20 rule. Basically what that means, you're gonna spend 50% of your budget on things you absolutely have to pay for. And if you don't do it, something bad happens, like you don't pay your rent, you don't pay your utilities, your car, you know, if you have a car loan, etc. And then 30% goes towards things you would like to be doing, going out to eat, traveling, stuff like that. and then 20% goes towards your savings and investing. That is the most common way to structure a budget. I would recommend a budget tool. Basically takes your credit cards and automatically categorizes each kind of component and helps you track along the way. As far as investing goes, I would say very general, basic advice. Most people start with like something that's tax efficient, which is usually your 401k. If you have an employer that does a 401k match, most people will invest in their 401k up until that match, because if your employer is going to match a certain percentage, that's a guaranteed return. You cannot get a guaranteed return in any other type of investment. Closest thing you could get is like a treasury bill. That's not guaranteed, and that's not a guaranteed 100% return. As far as next option, usually people will look into a Roth IRA. This is post-tax dollars, but anything you make in that investment, your gains are tax-free. So that can be a massive one. You're limited on how much you can put into that account. What's the new cap on your Roth IRA? I know it just went up. Cap on Roth IRA contributions. What is it for 2025? The cap for 24 was 7. What's the cap for 25? Dang, this should be like this should come up easily. Oh, okay. There it is, 2025. 7,000 or 8,000 if you're 50 plus. I thought that was 2024. It is. Where's 2025? There we go. No, same cap. So $7,000 is going to be your total investment. And the other thing that's a challenge by it, you're going to be restricted to invest after you make a certain amount of income. So you start becoming a high income earner, Roth goes out of the window. And then I would say what you invest in, your 401k is going to be a little bit more limited. As far as your Roth IRA, you're going to have some more options. The best advice, I think, for beginners or people that don't know what to invest in, Warren Buffett said this a long time ago. If you don't know what to invest in a low fee index fund. Basically what that does is it tracks the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 historically has actually outperformed all these hedge funds. So just have a strategy where you're investing in a low fee index fund if you don't know what you're doing, and just be consistent with how you invest. For me personally, I do something called dollar cost averaging. A lot of you are going to know what that is. Basically, I just pick dates on when I'm going to be investing. It's usually twice a month. And then I just try to be consistent on the amounts I'm investing. Once you get kind of past the basics, which I would view as like Roth IRA, 401k, stock market, you're going to tap into real estate, but real estate is usually a higher barrier to entry. The things that open up into that phase, private real estate, private credit, you have venture, you have tech, crypto is a big one now. And so that's kind of the basics. That's probably enough for you to get started. As far as how you open a Roth IRA, if you don't know, just don't do it with a bank. Do it through a brokerage. And then for anything you want to invest in the stock market beyond a 401k or a Roth IRA, the brokerages are typically all the same. You could open it in Fidelity, you can open it in Schwab, you can open it in TD. I would just say find the best interface that you like and use that one. The part that's more important is what you're investing in. Thanks, Mikey. Good advice. You got it, my man. All right. And then crypto. I mean, how many people are here invested in crypto? I just heard this story from an investor of ours who invested in this firm called, let me see what it's called, Gray Fund, I think is what it was. Gray Fund Crypto. Or maybe it's Gray Digital. Let me see right now. They're getting smoked. Gray Fund performance report is here. Okay, let me see. They're being, I think the SEC is onto them. Has anybody heard of this yet? I just heard this from an investor. SEC probes fund making 200% returns. Here it is. Okay, Gray Digital said it has received more than 42 million from about 1,000 depositors since it launched in June 22. They were promoting 200% returns, and now investors are concerned, or they have a fear of losing millions because of the SEC. The SEC is basically probing the fund. Okay, I'll accept you. We had an investor I talked to today started off making a lot of money and then went into panic mode when this happened and started losing money because of it. So with the crypto stuff, this is what I would say. If you're going to be investing in some sketchy coin, be very careful. Be very careful with influencers that are going to tell you about a coin that's about to go to the moon. I personally would not go anywhere near that. If you're going to invest in crypto, even in the established coins, right? Even if you're going to be investing in Solana, Bitcoin, XRP is one that had a big rise, Ethereum, I would put an amount that you are comfortable losing. Or make sure that if the value dropped out, like right now, Bitcoin's sitting at what? Is Bitcoin still over 100,000? Let me peek right now where we're at. Bitcoin, oh, that's the wrong wallet. Let me open this one. All right, no, Bitcoin dropped. So Bitcoin's sitting at about 97,000, right? If Bitcoin rips back down to 60, are you going to be somebody who panics when that happens? Are you going to be somebody who is uncomfortable with that type of volatility? If you are, crypto is probably not the right thing for you. So just make sure that you're matching risk tolerance with what you're doing. Mikey, do you trade options ever? Puts or calls? I do not. Actually, if you guys want to know how I invest, like you want to go into my personal portfolio, my stock investing is the most basic. It is so basic. The way I invest in stocks, every single person can do. I don't think I own any individual stocks anymore. I think everything is in funds. There's no leverage on any of them. There's no options. The majority of stuff I'm doing is like, index funds and some growth funds. Very, very basic. Where I look at finding returns that outperform the market, I'm by and large looking in real estate. And that's not just my business. Like when you look at what I'm actually invested in, I'm actually invested in a lot of the projects I'm doing. And so I'm basically picking off the same return that, all the passive investors in those projects that I'm invested in as well are getting. And so if I can get, 15, 16, 17% IRR here, well, now I'm getting like close to like the doubling what the market is giving me. So that's a great place that I like to be. I have some investments in kind of the higher risk zone in startups, but in the percentage of money that I have allocated in startups or higher risk, it's a small percentage of my portfolio. The idea being if I hit big, well, great. I have the opportunity to, 10, 12, 15x my money. But there's a high probability that I lose that money entirely. And so I don't want that to like make or break me. I would say the greatest risk that I take is always in myself. That's with starting companies. And then my crypto allocation is pretty small. My crypto allocation is basic. It's like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Hedera, Solana. I have some stupid coins because of some bets that I've won. I won some Floki. I won some Bonk. So I have a couple just stupid things that I would never invest in on my own. But, the first 6 are like very standard basic ones. And then that's basically my portfolio. What startups? Hashtag, okay, the startups that I'm invested in. When we sold St. Archer, one of my partners, Josh, stayed in the beverage industry and created a handful of brands. One of the brands, if anybody lives in California, One of the seltzer brands is called Ashland. It's in a lot of markets out here. It does quite well. I invested in his company, so that was a startup. I invested in a thrift store brand. I invested in a fintech company. Let's see what other startups I'm in. I'm invested in a little golf brand locally they're friends of mine. I just love what they're doing. What other startups am I in? I have a backpack company that I invested in. Trying to think the K1s that I get. I'm going to draw a blank on some of the other ones. Fintech, alcohol, thrift store, bags. That might be it. That might be all the startups I'm in right now. No artificial intelligence, no AI. I'm actually not invested in any AI startups. I would definitely invest in an AI startup. I'm just not. Mainly because I just haven't seen a project. I just haven't seen a project that somebody was raising money for. Program from city, 40K. When you sell your house, pay that money back. I should do it to fix my house. Daniel, I'm not sure what the question is. Do you mind trying to reframe that? What is Kareem Campbell like? Kareem Campbell is the best. He is the coolest. Kareem Campbell is just that personality that every time you're around him, you feel loved and special and everything is all good. Kareem has one of the best personalities I've ever met. What happens if the dollar falls or fails? Ghostface Robinson, falls or fails? Will you clarify there? Falls, that'll happen. Fails, that's a different story. Do you think paying for a business coach or mentor is worth it? If not, do you have any other business improvements, education hacks? That's a really good question. So first, I would say hiring a business coach is okay. Ghostface, I see it fails. I'll get back to that in a second. Hiring a business coach first and foremost is going to be based on your personality. Like if you're somebody who does good having somebody help you set goals, help you track accountability, and also maybe open your eyes to what is possible, then yeah, a business coach could be very, very beneficial. I would say the thing you have to do is make sure that you're hiring the right coach, right? For me, I don't have any business coaches. If I were ever to hire a business coach, that business coach would have to have already created what I'm trying to create at a very, very, very large scale. So I would want somebody who has already been through what I'm going through. But for me personally, I have, let me think of the best way to say this. I've never struggled with my perception of what is possible has always been pretty large. And so I naturally am an optimist and I naturally set goals pretty high. And so for me, seeing people do what I want to do would not make me feel like it's possible for me. I have always had that kind of built-in belief that I can do it. That's probably came from my parents, which I'm very thankful for. As far as the goal setting and accountability, that part could be very, very beneficial. For me personally, I have it already established in my company. Actually, for anybody who owns a business, I would read this book. We created a whole new management. We brought in a whole new management system into our company based off this, and that is very good for goal setting and accountability. But if you don't have that and you need it, yes, that could be huge. Now, part of what business coaches are going to sell, or what they usually sell, is this idea of networking. Like you're going to be around people that you're going to build relationships with. Yeah, that's maybe true. I actually don't see much value in that part. And look, I get invited to like these like business masterminds and business mentorship groups all the time to speak. And so what I would say the value that I see while I'm there is if you have a company, you're trying to do something, you're having issues, you have opportunities where you can present your issues and you have people that are helping you actually solve the problems and what you need to do to accomplish it. That's valuable. You have people that are going to help you like implement either software or programs that they're using to maybe help you be more efficient. That's valuable. And so I would say, yeah, there is a potential for a business coach to be definitely valuable. Just be careful. Like some of them are really expensive and they actually haven't really done anything. I would just say make sure you're getting a good one. Are you invested in any crypto? Jermac, yeah, I just went through what I'm invested in. It's basically the majority of crypto I have is all the staples: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Hedera. And then I have a couple like whatever coins that I like won from bets, like just stupid stuff. Okay, somebody asked about the question if the American dollar fails. What happens? If the American dollar fails, we're in trouble. Majorly in trouble. Now that's different than like what's going on with the BRICS program and people like, trying to dethrone the dollar, dethroning the dollar, or the dollar no longer being the world reserve currency. I don't want that to happen for America. I don't think it's good, but it is not the end of America if that does happen. If the dollar all out fails though, that's going to be painful. Of course. Yeah, that's going to be really painful. But I don't know. The next 4 years are going to be interesting. They really are. Like, personally, I am optimistic for what the next 4 years holds. That doesn't mean that it can't go wrong. That doesn't mean that we're going to hit challenges. But some of the stuff that I'm seeing, I think looks good. And having the dollar be positioned again as not just the world reserve currency, but America, it feels as if America is re-entering a vision of greatness. It feels like you're seeing a shift where Americans are going, no, we need to be the best. And American excellence is starting to feel like it's being really driven up the priority stack. If that happens, there's going to be a type of pressure put on these other companies that are challenging the dollar in a way that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. Truthfully, it's been a very long time. That has the potential of being phenomenal for us. I actually think just America recalibrating towards, let me think of the best way to say this, driving towards greatness and, putting a higher emphasis on meritocracy and incentivizing, results and making, a push towards being the best again. I think that's beneficial for us. I think that is very, very beneficial for America. Having the goal that we're number one and it's not even close to compete with us, I think that's good. I want to be there. And so we'll see how that shakes out. That doesn't mean it will happen. But I would say culturally, you're seeing I think a positive shift in the culture on what their view of what America should and can be. And that will pay off economically speaking, I believe. What would you tell your 25-year-old self if you were listening to this? Okay. What I would tell myself may be different than what you would need to hear. But what I would say to my 25-year-old self is, number one, when I was younger, I really, really cared about what people thought of me, really cared. And so when I would meet people, I would try to be the person they wanted me to be, or I would try to be the person that I thought they would like. And it took me a while to get comfortable with myself and really putting myself out there in a way that could be judged and could rub people the wrong way, which meant people weren't going to like me. But what I experienced once I got comfortable with that was something I never had prior. I actually had real relationships. I had people that were like with me through thick and thin. I had more meaningful relationships. I had a higher view of myself. That was way good for me. And then, how that translated into business, I wouldn't have built the business I have today, or even the last one, if I had the mindset I had when I was 25. Never would have happened. I would have been too scared of judgment or disruption, because disruption brings a lot of people that are not stoked on you, but also brings like the greatest amount of growth. I would have never ran for city council. Absolutely not. And so I would have had to tell myself that you have to be comfortable with who you are, and you have to be okay if people don't like you. And then I would say the next thing I would have told myself is time moves very fast, very fast. And I probably would have tried to put a higher value of my time when I was young. And I think if I would have done that, I would have got way more accomplished. The other thing I would have put my, big one, this might be one of the most valuable things I could tell myself. And sorry, I'm like thinking about this stuff as you asked it. When I was 25, I was dating my wife, and we got married when I was 27. And then we had my first daughter when I turned 30. And probably what I would have told my 25-year-old self is marry this girl now, put her on a pedestal, and when you have kids, put your wife and your kids first and your business third. That would have been terrifying for me to hear. I would have absolutely told myself that. That would have saved me years of struggle with my wife, and that would have bought me back time with my kids when they were younger. That would have been a huge one for me. I recognize that not everybody is a parent yet, but that would have been a big one for me. Time to skate, Mikey. Time to skate. I feel you, my man. Go get out there and go rip. I love that. Mikey, much love from Minneapolis. And how hyped are you on Paul's first pro model from the girl reissue? I loved it. I thought it was so cool. I've got boards in my office. I'm going to get Paul's board to put in my office. I absolutely loved it. Do you have any real estate investments outside of California? The only real estate investments I have outside of California are on our storage side of the business. And for our storage, we have assets in, let's see, I have one in Washington, one in Ohio, one in Illinois, one in Iowa. Where else do I have properties? One in Indianapolis. I have two, one in Sacramento, one in Satacoy on the storage side. So I have two in California. Most of our assets on storage are outside of California. It's really hard to get storage to work in California. It's just apartments that I'm only in California. Those are ones that I'm not looking out of our state. Solid Back to the Future advice, my man. I appreciate that. Do you like California? I love California. I'm born and raised here. I don't love everything about California. There's a lot of things I do not like about California. But all in all, I absolutely love the weather. My family's here. I love my city that I live in, and I absolutely love investing in California. That one's an interesting one, because the things that I don't like about our state are actually the reasons on why I invest here. That's a very weird thing to say, but I think our state is very bad at running business or creating the policies to incentivize business to be here. I think they're really bad at real estate as well. And so because of that, you see a scenario, at least through my lens, that there's so much government involvement and so much government regulation here that they have made it so difficult to create new businesses that they create an undersupplied environment. And whenever you're in an undersupplied environment, you have the opportunity to make a higher return, because if there's too many people chasing too few goods, prices are running up. And it's a big reason why our real estate is so high. So that's an interesting one, right? The things that I think are done poorly here are usually on the political side. And it's also created an environment that has a massive opportunity for investors as well. But all in all, I do love California. What I would say about California, and this is it would be a similar thing that we were just talking about with America. California, as long as I could remember, was the best. It was number one. Maybe you could argue that New York and California were going back and forth, but when I was skateboarding, everywhere I went, all you would hear from kids was, "You live in California? I dream to go out to California." Like, California was number one. We're not number one anymore. Like, when I'm out talking to people and they ask about me living in California, I swear it's a 50-50 response. 50% of people are going to be like, "Dang, that's cool." 50% are going to say, "I'm sorry, that sucks." That is crazy. Like, the fact that California is not number one means we have so dropped the ball. And I don't like that. I don't like anything about that. And so I would say if we get California to recalibrate and get rid of some of these politicians that have just let this state fall and put our goals back on making California the best state in the nation, whew, that would be good. I would love being back there. But the truth is, we haven't been there for a long time. Like, I'm still blown away that when I meet people and I say I live in California, they go, "Dang, sorry." That, you would have asked me that 10 years ago, I would have said there's no way that will ever happen. So I think that's a sign that we have a lot of improvement to do here. All right, let's see. Nate Hamilton, what's going on, my man? Advice in business to get out of your own way when you hit consistent results and struggle to reach that next chapter of growth. All right, that's good. Nate, I would say maybe the things that I struggle with are different than the things that you struggle with, but what I found is, yes, typically we're in our own way. One of the biggest things I see in business where founders become the wall is always based on control. I have so many friends that are founders of companies that do anywhere from $2 to $20 million a year in revenue, that are control freaks that will never give up the reins to anyone else to actually build and scale their business. And so for an entrepreneur, your goal always should be to build a business that runs without you. That's the goal. If you don't create that, all you're doing is becoming a slave to the business you created, right? And, entrepreneurs usually love the idea of not having a boss and creating something that can create legacy and generational wealth, and you're not clocking in 9 to 5. But what you end up having is you end up working way beyond 9 to 5. And if you never create the company that runs without you, I'm telling you right now, you're going to get exhausted and burn out, and you're never going to get to where you ultimately want to go. The challenge is you can never bring people in to run your company if you can't let go of control and build up people around you to succeed. You got to work on that. I'm assuming I'm just kind of stating that's a big challenge that I see over and over. I would say the other one is when it's time to replace yourself. That one is hard to do. Right? Like, you get so comfortable being the face, being the man or the woman, and getting the praise and the recognition. And what you need to do actually when you're hiring is you need to hire people that are more capable than yourself, that are smarter than you, that are truthfully going to make you feel inferior. That is how you should be hiring. But what you see a lot of entrepreneurs doing is they will never hire somebody that has the capability of outshining them. I would really, really recommend getting past that. Like, only hire people that are significantly smarter than you, and then get out of their way. Like, build the machine that runs without you. That's what I would say is, like, I would really implore you to look at. Here we go. My intuition is Aligning on this advice 100%. I needed to hear this. Good. Right. You want everyone on the team to be better than you. You do. The thing is, you got it. The thing is, it's an easy concept to talk about. It's actually really hard to implement because now you get into your insecurities, right? And if that means you need to start working on yourself and figure out why you are concerned if somebody looks better than you, start working on that. If you have challenges letting go of control, you got to figure out why that's there and fix it, right? I would say a lot of times what I see is people that have a hard time letting go of control maybe have had something bad happen to them, so there's some scar tissue there that they just haven't worked out. Or two, you see this idea of control be comforting towards the unknown in their future, right? Sometimes, like, even when it comes to like death, right? There's a lot of people that are very scared about what happens after this life, and they try to mask that fear with control. And sometimes they feel so out of control just living and knowing that we can get sick or we can get in an accident or it can end right now. That idea is so scary that sometimes they try to overcompensate in the things that they can control. Sometimes for entrepreneurs, that's business. Sometimes for people, that's something as simple as eating, right? That might be relationships. Whatever way you fight to gain some comfort on the future, that might just be how you're reconciling with it. So I would say this might be a deep dive to go kind of, into some uncomfortable places, but answer those questions. What I found is anytime I feel like I have control over something, it's a false control anyway. None of us really have control over any of this. So try to tap into reality, but more than anything, replace yourself. Replace yourself, replace yourself, replace yourself. I think just fire and hire when you know it's not a good fit, 100%. That's absolutely right. And be very slow when hiring. That's a big thing I learned. Be very, very slow with hiring. When it comes to firing, the rule is fire fast. That is hard to do. But if you know somebody's the wrong fit, what I found is it's better. It's not just better for the company, it's better for them. If you have somebody in a seat that they're not succeeding in, you're only holding them back as well. It's uncomfortable. It sucks having to go somewhere else, but you might really be holding them back because you're scared of letting them go. So I would say consider that. Thanks for sharing. You got it, Maddie. Weston, hey, do you have advice on something to do at 17, about to graduate high school? Weston, what I would recommend is go get internships or go travel the world. I would say take a gap year, skip a year of college, if that's something you're thinking about doing, and go work for people doing things that you think are interesting, and go get a lay of the land. Find out what you want to do. Maybe spend some time traveling, right? Go get immersed in some other culture, and then come back and try to figure out what you want to do first, and then figure out if college is the right move to get you to where you want to be, or if there's an alternative way of learning or gathering a skill set that's going to help you get there. But I think a gap year is very, very important. I think almost everyone should do it. I think the worst mistake anyone could make is going to college to figure it out. I would not recommend that. You're running the risk of putting yourself in a debt scenario that's going to be very hard to get out of. And two, you're wasting time. Like, figure out what you want to do first, then establish the best path to get there second. And I'll maybe recommend or brace yourself for, usually the people that are going to give you the hardest pushback on that are going to be your parents. They're usually the ones to be like, absolutely not. And so be prepared for that. What I would recommend saying is, one, try not to get defensive. Tell your parents, like, look, I understand why you're concerned. I know you want what's best for me, and I appreciate how much you love me, right? Always give somebody a compliment first. Second, what I would say to them is, look, this is not me committing to skipping college. That's not what I'm doing. What I want to do is figure out what I want to do first so that I can make a better, more calculated decision on what I should be doing. Because considering that school is going to be 4 years, that I'm going to have to go into debt to go there, and because if I go to college not knowing what I want to do, I don't know what the potential income I can make is, and then I have no ability to gauge on, is my future income going to be able to pay off my debt? If they hear you saying these things, I'm telling you right now, they're going to be like, damn, I raised you well, right? And so I would play that out, and then I would say, so this is what I'm thinking right now. I have an interest in real estate. I have an interest in tech. I have an interest in law, whatever it is, right? I'm going to start basically interning at some of these places. I'm going to spend some time getting to know how it works to see if I am interested in it. And then I'm going to come back to you guys and go, okay, this is what I decided. And, maybe I'm going to pick this career and I got to go to school and this is how I'm going to get it done. And if I do that, you're going to know that I'm picking a career that can pay the debt that I might be going into. Or this is what I see the opportunity as. This is my future potential income. And I actually don't need to go to school to get there. That is going to be music to a parent's ears. If they try to push you outside of that, usually what that's going to be is your parents are still struggling with this social norm that kids going to school means they're going to be successful. And if they don't, it means they're not. And so what you usually see in friend groups is parents brag about their kids. And so at that age, a lot of your parents' friends are going to be talking about where your kids are going to school and where they got accepted, and they're so proud. And a lot of times for a parent whose kid is not going to college or is taking a gap year, they're uncomfortable with their friend group and they don't like that. And so just be on the radar that might be at play as well. Stuck in an industry 16 plus years that I love, skate and snowboard shops with no potential for upward movement. Love my job, hate my paycheck. What to do to stay but thrive? Shane, what a phenomenal question. Love what I do, hate my paycheck. What I would say is there anything you can do in that industry that has a higher income potential so that you can still live what you do and make good money? If your paycheck is that low and you've hit the ceiling, unless you are absolutely fulfilled, if you are married, you have kids, and you can sustain that, okay, I think fulfillment is actually very important, and that might be the right choice for you. If you don't have kids yet, I'm making an assumption here, and you want to have kids, you want to get married, and you're barely getting by now, you may be forced to get a new job. And so I would consider those factors, but what I would recommend is you can find another thing that you love doing that has upward potential. There's just getting out of the shop environment and it's getting into the companies. Doing something with the companies in sales or product development or whatever your skill set is that has a higher income potential. You might find yourself even enjoying it more and making a lot more money. So I would recommend looking and exploring and see what's there. Even RP Best on here, move to the industry side. So RP Best is a perfect example of this. RP, I'm going to give you I'm going to put you on blast a little bit, so forgive me. And this could be the best example. I'm glad you said this. RP Best has been in the skate, surf, snow industry for as long as I've known him. That's since I was 18. So, that's over 20 years. RP has been in that industry. And RP might have started basically in the shops. RP is, one, phenomenal. Two, has had RP has done a great job enjoying what he does and providing for his family. RP's married, has kids. His kids are grown now. A perfect example of finding something you're passionate about and making a career out of it. and he's on the industry side. So maybe that is the best advice. Start looking into the industry side, moving out of the shop side, so that you can still have your fulfillment and make some more money. For me personally, just so you guys know, I would, if that were me in that situation, I would have to leave. Not because I would singularly need more money. How I would look at it is, one, I would have to enjoy what I'm doing. That's a non-negotiable for me. But then in that, I will never be okay hitting the ceiling. Like, if I've gotten to the point where there's no more I can do, there's no more I can learn, there's no more upside, that for me is almost worse than hating what I'm doing, or it's equal to hating what I'm doing. So I would have to go somewhere else where I can continue to climb. And honestly, maybe the way to look at it is, if you look at all of us as being able to use our skill sets and, benefit the community, the clients, pick the area that you're able to add value to. If you've hit the ceiling, you have completely killed all your potential to offer more. And I don't think that's good. I think we should always be thriving towards improving, thriving towards, having more responsibility. And ultimately, I like the idea of giving more impact back to your family, your friends, your community, your church, whatever it is. I don't like the idea of stationary. I think that's a bad place to be. So that would be my advice. Thank you guys for hanging with me. It's 5:00. I now have to head home, start working on dinner, and then I have actually an event I need to be at tonight. So I've got to head off. Love you guys. Happy New Year. I will connect with you guys shortly. I know it's been a while since we've done a live. I'll get back on the train, and why don't we do another one, let's say Friday of this week. Okay, love you guys. Bye.